So they're talking about canceling Essencefest because it's a little off. Okay. When I hear people saying that they are wanting to cancel venerable institutions dedicated to Black culture because it is now, quote unquote, co opted by other people of African descent, namely Black Africans or Black Caribbeans, it kind of makes me question what your motivation is, number one. But number two, it kind of lets me know that you may not have a strong grasp of how history works. You see, at this point in time, we are in an existential crisis. We're in an existential crisis because we are having our rights threatened by our government. And when I say our, I mean African Americans. And just to give you some background, I'm Attorney Sorrell Nassau. I am an African American, but I'm an African American. My mother is from Alabama, and my late father was Liberian, who later became a naturalized citizen. And before anybody comes at me, I want you to, this is your homework assignment, do some background research on the history of Liberia, and then get back with me, okay? But I have had the wonderful opportunity to live in Africa twice, and I grew up here in the South. Okay, I'm born in New York, but I grew up here in the Southern United States. So I've been awash in African American culture, the culture of Black people, because the South is the blackest part of America, period, point blank. And my duty as part of this channel that I've created, Dirty South History, is to give voice to the voiceless, give voice to stories that were not taught in school. I started this channel because, in my opinion, I, along with most Southern people, were miseducated. The stories of African Americans were not taught, or if they were taught, it was the docile shit. You know, I respect George Washington Carver, but we did more than just repurpose the peanut. Okay? And Booker T. Washington, fine man, but he wasn't the only voice that spoke for African Americans during the history of this country. Right? So I'm going to reveal a lot of different stories that you may or may not know. And I'm telling you that in my research, it has been by design that, yeah, our histories have been systematically erased. But doing this research, I found that it wasn't just us. So I'm telling the story of the complete South, warts and all, allies, you know, even white people who were not down with the systematic racism during the day. You don't hear about them. Their stories were erased too. And they call them scalawags. They can think of some negative names when they want to. Okay? Native Americans, everybody. I'm going to try to tell this story. But doing this research, one thing that I have found consistent is when African American leaders link their struggle, our struggle, to something beyond ourselves, that's when they get unalived or kind of character assassinated. Okay? So when I hear people trying to divide people of African descent against each other, that kind of lets me know that either you don't know history or there's something else moving that meter for them. Okay? Because one of our fine leaders, El Haj Malik El Shabazz, known better as Malcolm X, one of the things that he stressed once he left the Nation of Islam was that our struggle is linked to a human struggle. And he felt that you cannot hate the roots of a tree that you are a part of. Okay? In fact, he started an organization named the Organization of African American Unity, modeled after the Organization of African Unity, after he visited various countries worldwide. He realized that our struggle was tied to a worldwide struggle of people of color and people of African descent fighting against a system that is intentionally designed to keep people who look like me fighting each other and fighting against their system, keeping us down, basically. All right. And one of the ways that they've done that is to keep us from becoming unified. And when I say us, I mean people who have a common interest and who have a common mentality. All right. So one of the things that they strive to do is to keep us divided. All right. Now you can believe whatever you want to believe. I'm not here to change anyone's mind, but I'm here to point out some fallacies in some of these arguments that I've heard online. All right. And this thing about, they aren't like us, they all of them think that, they look down on us, or from the other side, Africans think they're better than us. Having this unique experience of being able to say I've lived on two different continents gives me, I guess, a unique perspective. And I have been in rooms that the other parties have not been in. And if you're an African American, I want you to understand something. We are the trendsetters of the world. Okay? When it comes to fashion, when it comes to lifestyle, we are the trendsetters of the world. It's just a reality. An African person was the first I heard mention that. Trumpeter Hugh Masekela. Look him up. He's from South Africa. He was the first person I heard mention that the world looks to African Americans to determine what is cool, what style is. But one thing that we caught up here in America don't seem to realize these days is the image that the rest of the world sees that's being put out in our name. I want you to think about something. I want you to turn, whenever you get an opportunity, turn your station to the next hip hop station. Not the old school, not the golden era that I grew up in, the 80s and the early 90s and whatnot. Turn it to today. See what's being put out there nationwide in our name, right? What they say African American culture is. Then I want you to watch something like Tubi. Just pick a day, pick a movie, and watch what is presented as African American culture today. That's the image that people who don't know you see and form their opinions of you. Okay? Now, if you are an African person, go on Facebook. Watch the little shorts that show these African vignettes. No. They make you think that you guys are not serious people. They make us seem like we are not serious people. And that is the shame of it all. Because a black face putting out minstrel type images, and don't get me wrong, that's part of the culture too. It's okay to have fun and be silly and, talk about sex. We all do that, right? But don't let that be the only image that people see of your culture. That's what I believe. And the fact that people got offended because there was some, I guess I wasn't there, but my sister was, there was some expression of cultures other than African American, that should be a good thing. You know, our diversity is our strength. That's what I believe. And in a larger sense, that's what people of color and people who have a different experience than the so-called mainstream, you should be fighting for that as well in every aspect of life. In every aspect of life. Counseling a venerable African American institution like Essencefest because you didn't like the fact that people from the African diaspora had something to say, it's troubling. It's troubling. The reason why is divide and conquer has been the systematic way that oppressors operate. People that you have a common interest with should be your allies. You should be forming stronger ties with people who have similar interests. This is the lesson that Malcolm X taught. It's straight out of his mouth. Okay, we should have strong foundations all across the African diaspora, everywhere. When Martin Luther King linked our struggle to the struggle of the Vietnamese people, that's when he got unalived. Okay? Once he started talking about reparations for past injustices, yeah, he became a threat. And this sanitized version of what you know as Dr. King, kumbaya, want to love everybody, that's bull jive. That's bull jive. That man was talking about a poor people's march, uniting people who have similar experiences together. And that makes the orthodoxy nervous. Okay? So if you're thinking about canceling somebody because you didn't feel like it was what you wanted, I would ask you to rethink that position. Instead of canceling folks, how about we have a come to Jesus and work out our differences with people that have a lot more in common with you than the people who are trying to oppress you. I don't know if you have been keeping up with the news, but the current occupant of the White House, with his racist self, is taking away the rights of citizens of this country on a daily basis. He's humiliating leaders of African nations in their face, and they have to take it. Liberia, my father's country's president, Liberia, Mr. Boycott, he was spoken to condescendingly, talking about, oh, you speak good English? Who says that to a head of state? Who says that to a leader of a country that was founded by former American enslaved people? It was designed to humiliate him. The same with the lies that was told to Cyril Ramaphosa, the head of state for South Africa, about them attacking or persecuting white citizens. Nonsense. You know, but you guys want to have some feud with those people, and they apparently have some feud with our people. But the struggle is universal, and you got to start thinking in terms of the bigger picture. Slights are just part of being a human being. You know, if you feel slighted by somebody with somebody saying the wrong word here or there, that's okay. That's just part of life. But you need to start thinking about how to have an organized resistance against this systematic racism that is showing its head again. Okay? These things happen. these things happen. We are experiencing something that has not happened in our lifetimes. And nobody's fighting because nobody knows what to say. You know, that's a line from Gil Scott Heron, Winter in America, by the way. But we need to start thinking about what needs to happen next. And I want to leave you with something. You know, I want you to think about a question. When you hear the terms diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the fact that the current occupant of the White House and the leaders of the Senate and the Congress, well, the leaders of both of them, the Congress, apparently the Supreme Court, when they are passing legislation and upholding legislation that is anti-DEI, anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion, who do you think that they are talking about? Well, who do you think they are talking about? I want you to understand something. This game is not new. Project 2025 did not start in 2025, okay? People have been studying you. If you look like me, the people who are opposed to you have been studying you. And they've been studying the history of how to keep you in your place. Now, there is a plan to get rid of illegal immigrants, okay? Or migrant people who don't have documents, okay? And they're rounding them up and putting them in these draconian, for lack of a better word, prisons to get rid of them, right? Why would they build all these prisons for somebody that you're just supposed to be moving out of the country? You think they're gonna spend all that money just to get for a temporary housing for people that they're going to deport? And the other question I want you to think about is somebody's got to pick those crops. Somebody has to pick those crops. They're moving these people out. Who do you think is going to be picking those crops? You see, our ancestors, if you're an African American, were sentenced to hard labor for things like vagrancy and loitering. And it was all perfectly legal. And this was 100 years ago. Not that far away, but far away from your cultural memory. And I think that that is by design. They move you far enough away from your cultural memory of history so they can drown you in your own ignorance. So when I hear people say that they're going to sit out this fight against the 14th Amendment, which guarantees the rights to citizenship, it makes me wonder, why do you think that they had to have a 14th Amendment to guarantee the rights of citizenship for African people, people of African descent, former enslaved people? Why do you think they had to actually have a constitutional amendment to do it? So, in just in case you don't know, you should Google the Dred Scott decision. Everybody's heard the name. Very few of us have actually looked up what it meant. And you'll see how people who have the mentality to be opposed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, what their mindset is for what comes after you get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So always remember who's always in the crosshairs when it comes to race in America. All right? So that's it. Dirty South out. Oh, by the way, my next set of stories, I'm going to kind of go a little bit more into detail into the educational system that we all have experienced in the South. Well, you have experienced the South right now is the engine that's driving the American train. Okay? These ideals that you see in place that are currently going on, these are Southern ideals, Southern planter ideals. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the educational system that has occurred in the South. I'm going to bring up some of the active actual lawsuits and whatnot that are going on to design to roll back the hard-fought rights that our people have earned in this country. And we're going to talk about the history of that and how racism has never gone away. It was just lying low, waiting for the perfect opportunity to raise its ugly head in a position of power. And I think that that's where we are right now. Dirty South out.